Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com. Justin Kenny of the News Sentinel, Glenn Marini here talking sectional football. 9 weeks of football already in the books, so we are at the postseason. Win and you move on, lose, you go home. Let's start with 4A Sectional 20 because there's some interesting matchups here. You've got Logansport versus Mississinewa. You've got Dwenger versus Marion, Wayne versus New Haven, Leo versus South. Dwenger, Marion.
Yeah.
A year ago, you'd have said, boy, this is a lopsided matchup. This year, how do you see it? Because Marion's coming in 5-4, Dwenger 6-3, and had some trouble with Northrop in Week 9.
Yeah, that goes to overtime. I mean, that game was really close. You know, Northrop takes them to overtime, loses 31-28. But to me, that's one of the two best games of the week. Just like you mentioned, Marion vastly improved. First-year coach comes from Indy, has turned around that program very fast, and they're going to have athletes. They're going to be able to score points in bunches if you are not able to defend them out in the boundary areas and in space. So a tremendous challenge for Bishop Dwenger. Long bus ride down to Marion and have to face a Giants team with plenty of athletes.
In Northeast Indiana, I don't think people know a whole lot about Mississinewa. That could be a sleeper team for Fort Wayne fans, I think, just because you take a look at their record, and it's a bit impressive. They're ranked 6th, they're 9-0.
Yeah, and I will admit, I don't know much about Mississinewa. One thing I do know is they beat up Eastbrook. And from my experience in working down in Grant County for a couple years, Eastbrook is the pinnacle program in that area. And for Mississinewa to handle them the way they did earlier this season is a big wow to me because notoriously that conference is not very strong. So 9-0 Mississinewa, but the fact that they beat Eastbrook, who still only has one loss and is still very highly ranked behind Woodland and Whiting in 2A, very impressive. So Mississinewa is going to be a very tough out.
On paper, Wayne versus New Haven looks like a complete mismatch. But Wayne has some athletes. They have some players. They played Lures close. They played a number of teams close. And I feel like they've improved from Week 1 until now. What can they do to battle what New Haven has? Because we've seen New Haven really be dominant. They started to put the foot on the necks of opponents here in the second half of the season.
Definitely. I think Wayne just needs to score points in bunches. I think this game, if they're going to compete, they need to score 30, 35 points in this game. But I think down the road for New Haven, and Coach Jim Rowland talked about it over the weekend, we have not been tested into the fourth quarter at all this year. How does my team handle a close game in the fourth quarter? We thought they would get that against East Noble. They did not. Props to them. I mean, it's great to be 8-0 going to the postseason, but Jim Rowland was like, I wish we would have had that game to really find out what we're made of late in the game. I don't think they get that game this week, but I think they're going to get it sometime in this sectional.
Who do you think wins this sectional when it's all said and done?
I think New Haven is going to win that sectional. I think Dwenger is going to be there. Mississinewa is going to be a tough out too. Mississinewa very good, but I think New Haven just has the quality and quantity of athletes that Mississinewa just doesn't see during the season. So I'm taking New Haven.
Okay.